Ross Coulthart's recent claims have been at the hub of the UAP community recently because of his claims with regards to 2027 and this potential quote-unquote great catastrophe. But then it also aligns with this quote-unquote great lie that we've been told by Jeremy Corbell that is also due to come in 2027 from some apparently declassified or classified documents from the 1970s that he's apparently had complete eyes on. Now, we're not going to be talking about Jeremy Corbell's claims because we've gone over them quite a lot recently. So if you want to know a bit more about that, go and check out the recent videos. But we're going to talk about Ross Coulthart because he was at Contact in the Deserts recently, and he did a little presentation there where he spoke about this whole 2027 quote-unquote great catastrophe that is, he's hearing about and stuff like this. It all spawned from this interview clip right here in which Ross Coulthart talks about what he's heard may be happening in 2027.
There's certainly something going to happen in 2027, and I don't know what it is.
Okay.
I've also heard 2034, and I've also heard other dates, much later. But depends who you talk to. Some people say it's a pole reversal. Some people say it's an asteroid hitting the planet. Some people say it's AI reaching quantum, and then all of a sudden we lose the capacity to have control of our own computer systems. I have no idea. What I am aware of is that everybody's telling me we're on borrowed time. And I cannot begin to emphasize how serious a look I get when I say to people who are confiding in me, what's the timescale on this? And they're urging me to be urgent. They're saying to me, people need the right to know this. They have a right to know this. And I'm going, well, what are we talking about? And I feel like shaking these people and saying, for God's sake, just bloody tell me. And they are all constrained by their national security oaths. They want the public to know this.
Now, that was the claim that got the internet talking. Everyone's been talking about it recently, right? And it's you can see why. Because when you kind of put this whole great catastrophe thing in a title, it gets people speculative, it gets people talking. And when it comes from someone like Ross Coulthart, who is, I guess deemed to be put on a pedestal a little bit when it comes to delivering UAP topics and stuff and, reporting on this stuff, he's quite a credible source. But like I said, he was at Contact in the Desert recently, and he's reiterated these claims and also elaborated on them a little bit further. So, obviously, whilst he was there, his claim about the multiple sources, he included the alleged government insiders, have warned him that something is going to happen in 2027, describing humanity as on quote-unquote borrowed time. And he emphasized urgency and conveyed by these sources, noting the serious demeanor when discussing the timeline. However, he admitted uncertainty about the event's nature, stating, "I don't know what it is," and referenced other proposed dates like 2034, indicating inconsistencies amongst sources. Now, obviously, that's where we've all kind of started, and that's kind of what we know thus far. But there is also speculated scenarios. So Ross Coulthart obviously discussed various scenarios for the 2027 event, including magnetic pole reversal, asteroid impacts, runaway into artificial intelligence, all sorts of stuff, including ETs as well. But of course, there is skepticism and evidence concern. So during the discussion tied to the CITD, or Contact in the Desert, Coulthart maintained a cautious tone, acknowledging the speculative nature of these predictions. In a related vetted interview on February 17th, 2025, he addressed the 2027 claims directly, emphasizing that they are quote-unquote just stories you can't corroborate, and urging skepticism without tangible proof. He also highlighted the need for evidence, such as data from scientific instruments like the James Webb Telescope, to validate extraterrestrial or catastrophic predictions. This aligns with the CITD commentary, where he aimed to foster curiosity rather than invoke fear. Now, of course, this goes hand in hand with what we've kind of already seen, but interestingly, there was actually a response to Jeremy Corbell's quote-unquote great lie that is also allegedly going to come in 2027 that we've seen circulating around the internet recently. So Coulthart CITD remarks indirectly address Corbell's claim about government-orchestrated great lies involving fabricated 2027 UFO arrivals. While Coulthart does not explicitly endorse Corbell's narrative, he acknowledges the possibility of disinformation, noting that 2027 predictions could be manipulated or even exaggerated. And in contrast to Corbell's assertion of a specific 1970s document, Coulthart remains agnostic, right, about the whole thing, focusing on the broader implications and secrecy rather than confirming a deliberate hoax. So it is a very interesting listen when you listen to Ross Coulthart, the way that he speaks. It's not, this is what's going to happen. It's, this is what I'm hearing. These are the sources that are telling me. But, you know, ultimately, is it going to happen? Who actually knows until it happens?
One thing, though, that I have to admit I steered clear of in my investigation was a very taboo subject, the most taboo subject inside the subject of UFOs, UAPs. And that's the story I want to talk about today. It's the vexing issue for me as a journalist of how to cover abductions, military abductions, people who describe often, let's be honest about it, ridiculous sounding encounters with non-human intelligences. And it's funny, you know, because one of the things I've noticed as you get more high profile in this subject is there's a lot of people in UAP social media who are no doubt well-intentioned, and they completely, I think, out of a good sense of, I think, kindness in pushing the issue along, they often misrepresent what I'm trying to do. I'm probably guilty of oversharing at times because, for example, just the other day I did an interview with somebody and they said, what about this 2027 date? And I said, oh yeah, I'm hearing about that. You know, there's a few stories. What are those stories? And of course I related a few of the stories that I've heard. And then the next thing I know, it's Coulthart says 2027 is going to be a catastrophe. And I really honestly have no idea. And I want to caution you all, a journalist, is only ever as good as their sources. We get things wrong. And I'm not saying I'm wrong. I just want to caution all of you that I'm only as good as the people who I'm trusting to share me information. And so with that, I want to take you down the rabbit hole of what I'm currently interested in. I've recently dipped my toe into the water of this most ridiculed and stigmatized area of anomalous phenomena. People who claim to be experiencers or abductees, people who assert they've had what's called sometimes a CE5 experience, a communication or an interaction directly with a non-human intelligence, allegedly, which they say often is terrifying.
So it's a very interesting clip, obviously, because he doubles down on what he stated and said, you know, I back what I've said, and what I said is what I said. But at the same time, it's been misconstrued through the rumour mill, and then it's been splurted out the other side. But, I mean, personally, I didn't see it that way. Like, based off of what I've seen at least, you know, he talks about a catastrophe that is going to happen in, you know, 2027, and he also heard the rumours of 2034 potentially, about all of these different things, pole reversals, AI, all the rest of it. Like, it's a bit of a, I don't know, it's a tricky one, because it's almost as if he's said too much and he's trying to backtrack a little bit, but then he's not the kind of person that would usually do that. If he says something, he usually sticks to his guns. So I'm more inclined to believe that he probably, you know, is just maybe attempting to clear it up. I don't know. It is a tricky one, but like I say, the public sentiment online across social media and Reddit around the CITD25 reflect polarised reactions to Coulthart's claims. Some praise his journalistic approach for highlighting the UAP issues, with one ex-post describing him as one of the leading voices in media on UAPs, and others criticising him for sensationalism, comparing 2027 to past unfulfilled predictions like 2012 or the Y2K. Critics argue that his vague warnings, constrained by NDA-bound sources, lack actionable details and fuel speculation without substance. For instance, a Reddit user over on r/UFOs remarked 2027 is going to be the new 2012, while another questioned why insiders would reveal an event with but withhold specifics. Obviously, it's a very interesting one. But what do you guys think about this? Ultimately, it's a leading conversation in the UAP sphere at the moment. I see a lot of people in the comment section of the videos at the moment saying, you know, when I hear about Ross Coulthart or Jeremy Corbell, it's usually a bit of a nothing burger because they make these claims, but there's no substance to back them. 9 times out of 10 with, Ross Coulthart, you usually find if he says something, there is something to back it, which is really, like, it does make it a bit odd as to why, you know, he's kind of like throwing this one out there and being like, oh, but I don't know about it. I don't know. It's an interesting one. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Way down there, jump, get the hell out of that like button and subscribe. And until next time, I'll speak to you later. Peace.